Good Shabbos. This week is Parshas Vayikra, and 1 week before Pesach. The Shabbos before Pesach is called Shabbos Hagadol, and that's a time usually when the rabbi in the shul would give a drasha, a speech, really specifically about the laws of Pesach, plus other topics that related to Pesach. Because this year Pesach starts right after Shabbos, giving any kind of advice about the laws of Pesach on Shabbos is really not very helpful, especially in regard to some of the preparations. So I'm going to just give a summary of the laws of kosher utensils and vessels for Pesach. A lot of this is in a information sheet that I've handed out in the shul and sent out. But if you're interested in just listening to this, or if you haven't had access to my sheet, this hopefully is a good summary. Just in advance, I should say that not everything I say is something supported by all of the different kashrus agencies, and you can go on to many of them and they have the summary of the laws. You can go on the OU, the CRC from Chicago, Star K, COR, MK, and probably a few others, and you might get some different advice. I'm going to give you the advice that I feel is halachically acceptable. So first of all, the materials that you could kasher for Pesach are metal, stone, including marble and granite, wood, and plastics, according to the lenient view. Certain materials cannot be kasher, and that's china, earthenware, glassware, which during the rest of the year, many people, including myself, use for both milk and meat, and we consider impermeable and therefore doesn't absorb any taste. On Pesach, the custom in Ashkenazi world is to be more strict, and glassware therefore cannot be kosher. Enamel, concrete, and any materials that are delicate and might be ruined by boiling water cannot be kosher. Now, when it comes to frying pans and roasting pans, baking pans, sieves, graters, and utensils that are difficult to clean, including serrated knives or knives with attached handles that dirt can get in between, they shouldn't be kosher because of the difficulty. It's possible some of them to do under certain circumstances, but best to avoid that. Now, I'll just go through some of the different utensils. So a self-cleaning oven is very easy in a sense to kosher. I'll give the basic idea in koshering is in Hebrew, kabolo kachpolto. As it absorbs, so too does it expel. And therefore, if something was absorbed by heat or by fire, it's supposed to be expelled in that way. And if it was done through cooking on a stovetop, then that's the way it should be kosher. Self-cleaning ovens are considered hot enough to be considered fire. Generally, something done in an oven, you need fire. But the consensus seems to be that a self-cleaning oven, which gets to about 800 degrees, that's sufficient to kosher to kosher without having to use a blowtorch. And usually you wait 24 hours, but for anything koshered by fire or a self-cleaning oven does not have to wait 24 hours, since you're not worried about the taste still being there, but rather because you're burning it all off. Again, some of these ideas are complicated, but that's the way it is. So therefore, you do not have to wait 24 hours. All you have to do is run through a self-clean cycle. You should do a minimum of 2 hours, and the koshering is complete. A conventional oven, which doesn't have self-cleaning, you do have to wait 24 hours from its last use. You should clean with an oven cleaner thoroughly, turn on to the highest setting for 1 hour, and racks, if cleaned with an oven cleaner, could be left in the oven or kosher by this process. And it's best if you also turn on the broil setting for 1 hour as well, because it's different, the heat's coming from different places. But if you don't, it's still kosher. Microwave ovens, some people again might not kosher them at all, but microwave ovens you could kosher. You wait 24 hours from its last use, clean thoroughly. Should fill a paper or plastic cup or container with water, bring it to a boil. I usually put it on about 5 minutes, which is like the normal time you would usually put something in a microwave, and it should be at the highest setting. And then you have to change the placement, because wherever the cup is, that's not getting exposed to the steam which is being created by heating it up. So you move it and do another 5 minutes. If there's a glass tray, that's a problem because glass we're not kashering. So either you purchase a new glass tray or replace it with paper or styrofoam. And the truth is, if you don't have the glass tray, just put it on the floor of the microwave. I believe it works. If there's a metal grate in the microwave, then that should be removed and could be koshered by putting in a pot of boiling water, as we'll explain in a few minutes. If you have a convection microwave, then it has to be kosher like a conventional oven. Broilers and barbecues are difficult to kosher. If you really need to, ask your local Orthodox rabbi. Warming draws, I'll skip for now. It's easier just not to kosher it, but there is a way to kosher it, which I have in the information sheet, which is given out at least in our shul. Stovetop, if you have a conventional gas range, you should clean the grates. The drip pan and the space between the burners should also be cleaned thoroughly. Wait 24 hours from last use. And there are a few options to kosher the stovetop. Either put the grates, and the only reason you have to wait 24 hours is because you're also koshering parts which don't necessarily come directly in contact with the heat, because it's also just through the heat going through and heating up the top of the oven. So anyway, what you do is, for a conventional gas range, best thing is you could put the grates in the oven while koshering the oven, and you could do the same with the drip pans, but it's not necessary. And beware that the drip pans might be discolored or damaged by the heat of the oven. I'm not going to take responsibility for that. Then if you just, or that's one way to do it. The other way is to leave the fire on the highest setting. In my information sheet, I say 20 minutes, but really it could be even less. The idea is that it should get really hot. The third way is, but let's assume it should be 20 minutes. That way you make sure that the heat spreads evenly. The third way is to leave a burner only even for less time, let's say 10 minutes, but put a pot or pan with some water on the grate. The reason you put water in it, otherwise the pot will burn. And that way, because what's happening is that pot is now spreading the heat over the area which it would have been normally spread while you were cooking during the year. And if you do that, it's not necessary to change or kosher the drip pans, because that heat is spreading in the same way it would spread while you were cooking the rest of the year. You just have to make sure that they're clean. And again, if you want, you could put the drip pans in the oven while koshering them, or you could also place them in boiling water, again, as we're going to describe below. In my opinion, you don't have to cover the knobs or the back of the oven, but it's best, if that's the case, to make sure that pots and pans don't come in contact with the back of the oven. For the space between the burners, the way I understand it, you could pour boiling water. You boil water, let's say in a kettle, it should come to a rolling boil, and you pour the water over the surface when it's dry, or you can cover it with two layers of heavy-duty tin foil. And when anytime you're pouring boiling water, you should pour it directly over the area and not rely on the water flowing from one area to the other. Okay, that was a conventional gas range. A conventional electric range, again, you should wait 24 hours from last use, clean all the areas of the burners that will not become red hot. The part right on top becomes red hot. You don't have to worry about cleaning them, but clean the rest of the area, the drip pans and the space between the burners. Again, leave the burners on until they're red hot. You don't need more than 5 minutes, the way I understand it. It's not necessary, again, to change or kosher the drip pans. And again, you could put those drip pans in boiling water or in the oven when you kosher. You do not need, again, to cover the knobs of the back of the oven, the same as I mentioned before. And again, the pot shouldn't come in contact with the back of the oven. And again, it's a little complicated if it's dry or if it's wet. When it actually comes in contact would make a difference halachically, but I won't go into the details. For the space between the burners in electric range, again, my understanding is if you just pour boiling water over the surface when dry, then or you can just cover that area with 2 layers of heavy-duty tin foil. And again, make sure you don't let it just flow, but you actually pour the water over every space. An electric gas top stove, you should wait 24 hours from the last use, same thing. Again, clean the space between the burners. Again, leave the burners on until it's red hot. Same as before. The question is about the space between the burners, which is glass. So there are many, if you go on some websites, you'll see that they're pretty strict about it. My understanding, my opinion, is to rely on just pour boiling water over the surface when it's dry. And again, make sure you cover all the area with directly pouring rather than letting it just flow from one end to another. Refrigerator and freezers, again, traditionally a lot of people cover. I don't think you have to cover them with anything. All you have to do is clean them well, and they don't have to be covered. If they're clean, it's cold, nothing's going to happen. If you do line the shelves just for safety purposes, so you don't ruin your refrigerator, make sure you punch holes in it, otherwise there won't be enough airflow, and you might ruin your refrigerator or freezer. Countertops are also an area of different controversy. My understanding and opinion is that if there's certain countertops you cannot kosher, which is ceramic, enamel, wood that is cracked because food might get in there, or concrete. But but all other countertops, even if they're not, even if it's not a wood, which could be koshered, or stone, they could be koshered. Even plastics could be koshered by, again, waiting 24 hours from the time it was used hot, which is generally not anyway, and then take a kettle or a pot of water, let it come to a rolling boil, and then pour over all of the surface. The backsplashes do not have to be koshered or covered, but again, try not to have any pots come in contact with them. But if they do come in contact, if it's dry, two surfaces dry, we assume it's okay. Sinks, another issue. Stainless steel sinks, again, wait 24 hours from last time it was used with very hot water. When I say last time it was used, I should have been clear. That's only if it was used with hot water that's hot enough that you wouldn't be able to keep your hand in it for about 15 seconds. If it's just warm water, that's okay. So you wait 24 hours from last time it was used with very hot water, clean thoroughly, and again, pour boiling hot water over all the surface, including the spout, and make sure you cover all the areas. That's stainless steel. If it's enamel or porcelain sinks, they cannot be koshered. It's still good to wait 24 hours and then clean thoroughly. And it's best to pour boiling hot water over all the surfaces as you would do in stainless steel sinks. But you really can't rely on it because these are non-kosherable surfaces, and therefore it's best to insert a tub and wash the dishes in that tub in the sink. You should still pour boiling hot water over the spout after it wasn't used for 24 hours. Dishwashers are another area of controversy. Some people say not to kosher it, but I think you could be lenient. And if you have a stainless steel dishwasher, it could be koshered after 24 hours after last use. And you could run through the hottest cycle with dishwasher detergent, and preferably do it 2 times after cleaning it thoroughly. And this even applies to the plastic coated racks as long as they are cleaned thoroughly. If they're cracked, that food could be stuck in the cracks, or food is caked on that you can't get off and there's really something there, then you cannot kosher them. Enamel dishwashers cannot be koshered except if you wait, and this is true for the rest of the year also. If you buy a house or a used dishwasher, there's a leniency, even though it's enamel, and you shouldn't usually kosher it if you wait 12 months, which is 12 times 29 days, and then run through the hottest cycle with detergent to do it 3 times in that case. Okay, that's true also with China the rest of the year, that you shouldn't kosher, but if you wait 12 months, 12 times 29 days, and you put it in boiling hot water, which you do with other vessels, 3 times, then it could be kosher. Like silver dishes, kiddush cups, knives, forks, and spoons. Wait 24 hours the last time it was used hot. Clean it thoroughly. Fill a clean pot that has not been used for 24 hours being used hot. And it doesn't matter whether that pot was chametz, Pesach, whether it was meat or milk. It doesn't matter. There's some people that say it's better to do one or the other, but you could use any pot. Fill it with water. If you need to kosher the pot itself, then you fill the water to the top till it comes to a rolling boil, and then you put in, they say typically a stone, but you could put in any kind of utensils which make it flow over the top, and then the pot is koshered. But in general, if you don't want that pot or it's already kosher for Pesach, you just fill so desire, towards the top, so it won't roll over and get all over the. You heat until it comes to rolling boil, and you should put every utensil or vessel into the pot separately. They shouldn't be clunked together because then the water is not coming in contact with it, and it has to be completely covered in water. If the knife or something like that can't is too big to fit in the pot, you put in half, turn it over, and put in the other half. As long as everything is used. If you have tongs, you could use tongs also to hold it and put it in. But just make sure that the place with the tongs where it changes so that the water comes in contact with the place where the tongs were. It's best to rinse it in cold water afterwards as soon as possible. Um, that's really all the kashering information. Again, that was a summary. If you want to go in detail, go on some of these sites, but just have in mind that many kashrus agencies are more strict with a glass top electric oven, and they might be more strict when it comes to plastic utensils in general and plastic or formica countertops. I believe that there's room for leniency. And any other question, you should call your local rabbi for direction. Have a very good Shabbos, and as they say, Chag Kosher V'Sameach. You should have a happy and kosher holiday of Pesach. Good Shabbos.